Hi everyone, and welcome to your second week of lab. I hope you've enjoyed the opportunity to get to know your group members and to start brainstorming ideas for projects. This week we're going to start moving from the ideas about the projects, the variables involved, to figuring out how you're going to start measuring those concepts in a way that turns the project into an empirical question. So I'm going to show you a couple of things today to start you on that path. As we've already talked about in lecture, in order to have a successful project, you really have to understand the research that's been done previously on that subject. And so in order to do that, you're going to have some skills at looking at the scientific literature. So let me show you real quickly how Psycinfo works. It's going to be your primary database that we use here at UMaine. So you can access Psycinfo by going to library.umaine.edu. This is the main page of the folder library. You can find it by just typing Psycinfo into the one search bar here. But just so you can see, if you click on databases here and you jump to P, down at the bottom you'll see Psycinfo. There's also PsycTests and PubMed. These will also be valuable. PsycTests is a depository of actual measurements in psychology, so as we talk about how you'll start to measure things, this will also be valuable. It's largely, there's a lot of clinical measures, so not all the things you're looking for will be found here, but you'll be able to find some things. PubMed will also have some articles for you. But take a look at Psycinfo. I should also mention that if you're off campus, accessing this database is easy. You just have to go by the library and have them activate your card at the information desk. So if you'll go by the information desk on the first floor of the library, they'll activate your card for offsite access, and you can access Psycinfo and the full text articles on Psycinfo from home, which will be helpful for you in the project. So here we are on the main page of Psycinfo. And let's say that I heard that several of your projects this semester are on altruism. So you're interested in how frequently or how much people are willing to help other people. So we know that in the literature that's called altruism. So I'm just going to search for altruism. Big wide search. Now Psycinfo lets me search by keyword, which is what I've done here. You can see I have almost 5,000 results for altruism, so there's a lot of work here. Psycinfo tells you a lot of valuable information right at the beginning. It tells you what kind of publication it is, and it tells you what kind of information you have, whether this is linked full text, so you have to click through and you'll find full text available to you, whether you have full text in PDF or just HTML. In this case, there's no full text available, but there's an article linker here that will link you back to UMaine's library to find out if they have the book, and if they don't have the book, how to request that book. There are also several search options, even in the basic search. So you can go here to refine your results. So say, for instance, I'm just doing a quick search. I only want things that I can access the full text for easily, so I can check this box. You also really want only peer-reviewed sources, and so let's say you're looking for only very recent articles. You can change the publication date that you're looking for here. Now you'll see that only full-text articles are showing up. So now I have several pages of results, and as I read through these, I'm noticing that even these articles, I might, for instance, take a look at reluctant altruism and peer pressure and charitable giving, because maybe I'm interested in the extent to which people donate to charity, so I'm going to click on that full text. I want that article, and it's just going to open right up in another window here, and I can take a look. But I notice that these are very broad articles because I've searched for a very broad topic. So maybe instead of just looking for altruism, I want to go to an advanced search where I can search for multiple terms. So now let's say I'm interested in altruism and empathy. Now I'm getting more focused articles. So now I'm going to find things that link the extent to which we feel other people's emotion with the extent to which we are willing to help other people. At the beginning of your search, any of these articles that sound like a clear empirical study, so it looks like they've collected data, and that sound interesting really will be valuable for you to look at. So as I scroll through this, I see altruism behind bars, sharing, justice, perspective taking, and empathy among inmates. I may not necessarily be interested in inmates. Remember, for your project, you can't use protected populations like that. But that sounds like an interesting article to me. And the great thing about being at the beginning of my literature review is, as I look at this article, it's going to start out with very broad questions about altruism and the belief in a just world and perspective taking. And when you look at their introduction, you're going to find resources and citations about altruistic behavior that are going to allow you to go back to Psycinfo and find these articles. So for example, right here at the beginning of this section on altruistic behavior, you can see that this author is citing some classic studies in altruism by Dan Batson, by Grobel, and you can see here they've even told you this is an overview. So these articles are going to be a great place for you to look to find basic resources on the question of altruism and how it's related to other variables, how it's been measured in other studies. So right at the beginning of this article, the first one I found, you can see there are a couple of review papers that are going to be really helpful for you. As we scroll through, you can see that they have measured altruistic behavior in some particular way. In this case, they've done it through economic games. In this case, an anonymous dictator game. You can read more about how they've measured variables, find citations for how they've measured these variables, and look at those original studies to decide whether or not you want to measure that variable in the same way. As you start thinking about how you're going to get at altruism, you want to find out how other people have measured altruism in the past. Looking at these published studies will help you figure out how it's been measured, will cite the original article, and will allow you to go back and try to find that article so that you can use the exact same methodology that have been used in published papers. We'll talk about why that's important more in the lecture. You can see that this introduction is broken up a lot like ultimately your introduction will be broken up. There are thematic sections where the authors talk about altruistic behavior. Then they talk about how altruism is related to their other variable of interest, in this case, belief in a just world. They show how altruism is related to other variables of interest, like empathy and perspective taking, and they have citations about each of those things that help you understand how their question fits into the research that's already been done on the subject. All of these journal articles that you look at are going to be valuable models for you as you prepare your written paper at the end of this semester. These articles will demonstrate how your paper should be structured. You'll notice, if you see, I like that all of these are highlighted in blue. Do you see how many citations there are here? These people are pulling on evidence from lots and lots of papers, and they make sure that you understand they know the literature that surrounds these questions. When I'm just starting a literature review, what I'll usually do is look for 10 to 15 articles like this that are around my area of interest but may not be ultimately exactly what I want to measure, and I'll start scanning through those articles, reading their abstract, looking through their introduction for questions that are relevant to me, and writing down citations, looking in the references section for those citations, and looking for articles that I want to track down and take a closer look at. I'll also look through the methodology section to see what they use to measure each of these things and see if many of these articles are using the same thing. I might want to track down these measures. You can see, for instance, they measured empathic concern with the interpersonal reactivity index. That's the most common measure of empathy. It's Davis 1983. You'll want to find that article if you're going to use that measure. So I'll do this for 10 to 12, 15 articles, and by that time you have a large list, maybe 20, 30, 40 sources that you can look to, pull from, and in the course of a couple of days have amassed a large amount of information about one specific subject. It will help you hone your question down to something that is measurable within the course of this class. Now, sometimes you come across an article that you can't find on Psycinfo that you really want. So let's say that I really want to see how Bolton and Ockenfell's this 2000 paper ran the anonymous dictator game. So I can type these names into Psycinfo. So I typed those names in. This is a 2000 paper, so I'm going to look for a paper that was published in 2000. That's 2012, 2004. There's a quicker way to do that. And I can select publication year here. And I can't seem to find that article on Psycinfo. This happens sometimes, or I found an article that I can't find the full text for. So there are other options for searches. The first thing that I want to do is look down here at the bottom in the references section and find the full title of the article. In this case, ERC, A Theory of Equity, Reciprocity, and Competition in American Economic Review. So you can see why maybe that wasn't in Psycinfo, because it's in an economic journal. The first and easiest thing I might do is just do a simple Google search. You'll notice that Google Scholar automatically brings up some suggestions for me. I can click on that, and looks like I have the PDF. Yep. It's not always that easy. Sometimes you'll stumble across some blog posts that might link to the article. You'll find maybe a link to a journal page that has, like this, for instance, that's blocked. So you see how this is the end of my preview. I only get this first page. The first thing that you can do is take this and go back to the library main page and use OneSearch to try to find the article. Or you can install the library's proxy, which you can find on their webpage, and reload the page through that proxy, and if UMaine has access to the journal, it will give me the PDF. And in this case, we do have access to the journal, so I can view the PDF. So there are lots of different ways to find an article. Don't give up just because it doesn't look like it has full text. If an article title or abstract that you find in Psycinfo looks interesting to you, or a citation that you find in another paper looks valuable, take a few minutes and look around. You'll be able to find it. Today in lab, you're going to have the opportunity to play around a little bit in Psycinfo. As part of your assignments for this week, you're going to do a Psycinfo scavenger hunt. You can certainly do this on your topic of interest to help you move towards completing your proposal worksheet that'll be due, let's see, next week it looks like in lab. So you'll have this worksheet today that lets you play around on Psycinfo and find some articles. And that will move you towards this. So as I mentioned, last week you should have been working on these types of questions. This week you're going to hone down these questions, and you're going to begin answering these questions. So what kind of research has been conducted on the subject? Your literature review on Psycinfo is going to show you that. What are the general topics of literature that will inform the project? For instance, altruism, gender, those big, broad topics. What specific studies have been done and what have they found? So here you're gonna put a short citation, and you're gonna provide answers to they did this, they found this. Then ultimately, what I'd like you to understand at the end of this week are these two questions. How are we going to measure or manipulate one variable? How are we going to measure or manipulate the other outcome variable? That's what I want you to be focused on as you continue your literature review. How has this been measured? How has this been manipulated? How can we do it in this setting? So I want you to have an idea of how you're going to measure your variables of interest. Most of the time this is going to be through some self-report scales. So you need to find those self-report scales themselves and have those available because when you submit your final proposal, you're going to have all of those measures put together. So go ahead and track down the measures themselves. Use your internet sleuthing. Make sure that they're published cited measures and begin to put together exactly how you're going to construct your project. I hope you enjoy the week. I hope you enjoy taking a look at Psycinfo and seeing all the cool studies that have been done. Remember, you can take a look down here at the example of this worksheet that might help you get on the right path. Thanks and have a great week.